hang up with you now. Okay, so we are live, everyone. We'll get started for those of you who are waiting in about 1 minute, since it's about 6:29 at this time. Hope everyone is staying safe. Okay, it's 6:30. So happy Census Day, everybody. Hope you're all staying safe and taking care of yourselves and your loved ones, even as we all practice social distancing. My name is Hannah Rowe, and I'm the 2020 Census Manager for the Austin Asian Complete Count Committee. Thank you all for joining us on our first live stream webinar, where we'll have an opportunity to hear from our community leaders about the importance of the census and have a live tutorial for filling out the census online. So this webinar will be around 45 minutes, so we'll be ending around 7:15, and we'll be hosting these live webinars every 2 weeks. So while we are presenting our panelists, our panelists will be making their presentations, you can submit questions live here on this page, on this YouTube page, and we'll have some time at the end to answer your questions. So before we begin, I'd like to introduce the work of the Austin Asian Complete Count Committee, or the AACCC. The AACCC was formed to ensure a complete count of all Asian American Pacific Islanders in the greater Austin area in Travis and Williamson counties. We're so proud to be working in coalition with the Black African American Complete Count Committee, the Hispanic Latinx Complete Count Committee, and the LGBTQ+ Complete Count Committee. So much is at stake in each and every one of us getting counted, and we'll have a chance to learn more about why. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure and privilege to introduce to you our community leaders who will be speaking with us today. So speakers, once I call your name, if you could just wave your hand so that people can see you. So Sumit Dasgupta. There's Sumit. So Sumit is a retired executive from the computer semiconductor industry. He's currently the member of 2 City of Austin commissions, the Community Technology and Telecommunications Commission, representing District 10, and Bond Oversight Commission, where he serves as the mayor's appointee. Sumit has served as the president of the Network of Asian American Organizations, or NAO, from 2012 to 2014. He's a founder and former president of the Indian American Coalition of Texas. Sumit served in a core team with the US Census Bureau in ensuring that residents of South Asian origin in Greater Austin were accurately counted in the 2010 National Census. So he's been doing this for a long time, very experienced member of leader of our community. We're so pleased to have you with us. Our next speaker will be Arthi Singh. So Arthi, if you could wave your hand. Arthi Singh is the first Asian American trustee for the Austin Independent School District. Elected in 2018, she serves as an at-large position, which is a citywide position representing 80,000 students, 12,000 employees, and 130 schools. She's a former teacher and is now a program evaluator for STEM and college readiness programs. Arthi, thank you so much for being with us today. And our last speaker is Fang Fang. Fang Fang, can you wave your hand for our viewers?
Hello, everyone.
So Fang Fang is a partnership specialist for the United States Census Bureau. She's responsible for developing partnerships with all levels of government, community-based organizations, faith-based groups, schools, media, businesses, and other grassroots entities and communities in the greater Austin area for the decennial census in 2020. Fang Fang has spearheaded in forming the Asian Complete Count Committees in Austin and San Antonio, which quickly became a model for other ethnicity-based CCCs, or Complete Count Committees. She also serves as a liaison member of the City of Austin and Travis County Joint CCC, as well as the Williamson County CCC. Fang Fang, thank you so much for being with us. We're honored to have all of you here. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sumit to tell us more about the significance of the 2020 census and his own community and leadership experience. Sumit, to you.
Okay, thank you, Hannah.
and welcome everybody to this webinar, the first of its kind here. So I want to speak for a few minutes about what I call Census 101, and Fang Fang will give much more detail later on. And then secondly, why am I so involved with the census? So why do we need to do this? Well, it's first and foremost, it's required by law. It's part of the US Constitution, and it's done every 10 years. And so once you do it this year, you don't have to worry about it for another 10 years. More importantly, it is very, very important, and it's very, very good for us. And based on the census count, states get federal dollars back from the federal government based on the population per state that we have already paid in taxes to the federal government. And this money is used for healthcare, school funding, school lunches through SNAP, Medicaid, and many other projects that are very, very important for us. Next question is it safe? And yes, absolutely it is. No question relating to citizenship. And the data submitted is safe with the Census Bureau, who provide only demographic data and statistics. So who does it include? Well, everyone, citizens, residents, refugees, immigrants, undocumented, including visitors who spend more than 6 months in this country. And so the next question is, how can you take it? Well, there are 4 ways now. Online, by phone, or filling out the form that comes to you in the mail. And if you fail to do either one of them, then responding to a census worker who comes to your door after May 7th. Now, a few words about myself as to specifically why am I doing this? Well, you heard my introduction from Hannah, so I'm not going to belabor that anymore, but let me describe why I'm so involved in the census. As I say often when I'm asked about my deep political and civic involvements, that I'm doing this for the sake of my grandkids and everyone else's grandkids. I'm that old. It's as simple as that. So I want to try my best to leave this a better world for them. And for that, we need to be counted. We Asian Americans live here, we work here, we serve our community here, so we belong here. And so therefore we must be counted. My wife and I worked on the 2010 census at the request of the mayor then, Lee Leffingwell. So it was natural that I got involved in the 2020 census. But what is different this time? In 2010, there were fewer Asian Americans here and less diverse. There were fewer refugees, fewer new immigrants, and fewer undocumented. In 2020, the Asian population is much, much larger, much more diverse, more refugees, more new immigrants, many more H-1B visa holders, more undocumented spread wide across 5 counties in the greater Austin area. In 2010, the Census Bureau didn't have an office here, but they were willing to come down from Dallas to support our effort. We covered South Asian population and connected strongly with organizations with deep roots in the community. We had 3 asks of them: propagate whatever we send them by email, and give us time and a table at their events. In 2020, Census Bureau has an office here in Austin, and we have strong support from Fang Fang, from whom you'll be hearing very shortly. Everything is online, very easy to use. I've already done my job, and it's very easy. It just took 5-10 minutes and it was done. But there is COVID-19 hovering over us, and there's the fear that the data will be leaked to authorities with negative consequences. But there's no fear for that. The Census Bureau ensures that. But the model we are using here is exactly the same in 2010, reaching out to community organizations and making them our partners. And in addition, we are using social media tools to the maximum, particularly because of COVID. So I'm requesting all of you to take the census and ask all your relatives and all your friends and acquaintances to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumit. So we'll next be hearing from Arthi. Arthi will be speaking to us about the challenges that Asian American Pacific Islanders face and how this relates to families, education, and her own community and leadership experience. Arthi, to you.
Thank you, Hannah. Hi, everyone. Happy Census Day. I was going to sing like Happy Census Day to you. Happy Census Day to you. So I hope everyone has filled out their census form, or you're actively thinking about it. I'm so honored to be part of this panel with these wonderful community leaders. Big shout out to the Complete Count Committee. You guys are doing such an amazing job. And even though this is an Asian American Complete Count Committee, this message is for all of our brothers and sisters, no matter what race or ethnicity you are in Austin. Your count matters, and your voice matters. So really, I'm going to talk a little bit about, though, right now, the experience for that can be very typical for a lot of our Asian American families or immigrant families in general. I'll share a personal story that I have about a friend of mine. A couple of years ago, when I was running for the school board, I have a friend, she and her family came from India. Both she and her husband have advanced degrees. They're working, they've got 3 kids, and they have the story that many of us have. And they had just gotten their citizenship after many, many years. They had become naturalized citizens. And I told them, I was like, hey, I'm so glad you got your citizenship. Now you can vote for me in the election. And they're like, oh, no, we're not going to register to vote. And I was like, well, why not? You're a citizen now, you can vote. And they said, well, we're scared to. You know, we just got our citizenship. We don't want to do anything that's going to raise any sort of flags. We don't want to draw attention to ourselves. We're just going to kind of lay low. And I had to like promise them that nothing would happen to them, and really convince them to get registered to vote, not just you know, for my selfish reasons, but just because it's part of our civic duty. And I'm happy to report that they did, and they did vote. And but I could see firsthand the fear of many of our immigrant families who may not want to vote, or in that same regard, fill out a census form. And I really want to assure you that whatever you put in your census form, it's actually required by law. And your whatever you submit is going to be 100% confidential, and it cannot be used against you. So whether you're a citizen or not, whether you're here legally or if you're undocumented, you still need to be counted, and it's going to help you because it brings in money to our city, to our community. Think of it this way: if you spend 10 minutes filling out your census form, that will bring $1,500 to your local community, to your schools, you know, to your hospitals, and for many, many services that really help all of us. Asians are the fastest growing demographic in Austin and in Texas. So it's even more important that we get counted. We actually, you know, Asian Americans, we top a lot of charts. We top the charts, and oftentimes in terms of academics, in terms of income, and other areas. But the one area that we are lagging farthest behind behind all the other groups is our census return rates. We came in last in 2010, and we don't want that to happen again. We want our Asian Americans and all groups to really have high return rates. And so I'm just going to ask you, please do and fill that out. I know there was a threat of possibly having a citizen question last year. That's not going to be on there, so you don't even have to worry about that. And the other thing is, language can sometimes be a barrier. So we're just going to have to lean on our greater community. We have so many different Asian languages, probably dozens or maybe even hundreds of them right here in Travis County. And so we need to reach out to our friends, our neighbors, our family members in our languages, and remind them to fill out the census. And you can always call the Census Bureau, and they can have somebody and helping you through filling out your form in multiple different languages. I want to talk a little bit about how Austin ISD depends on accurate census data. As Hannah mentioned earlier, we have 80,000 students in our school district, and that's a lot. I think we're the 7th larger. We have 12,000 employees. I think we're the 7th largest employer in Austin, something around that. And we have a budget of about $1.5 billion. A lot of that does, a chunk of that does depend on accurate census counts. We have Title I schools. These are schools that have a larger concentration of low-income students. And Title I money, which depends on accurate census counts, helps us hire teachers, buy computers and books and materials and after-school programs. for our students. So you'll see a direct benefit to your community. In addition, we get funding based on census counts to help fund special education. So if you have a child with learning disabilities or other types of disabilities, an accurate census count will help ensure that your child is getting services that he or she needs. About 11% or about 9,000 students in Austin ISD do have special needs and are served by our special education program. We also have Head Start, which is an early childhood program that helps students before they enter school, but it gives them a head start. A lot of that does also rely on accurate census counts. And so there's just so much. There's even the National School Lunch Program, which you may have heard about. Right now, we are feeding thousands of meals every week to our families during this pandemic. But that also the funding for that also relies heavily on accurate census data. And that way we can give healthy, nutritious, and tasty meals for our students. But it's not just for K-12, it's also for higher education. We have Pell Grants and other forms of financial aid for students. A lot of that depends on accurate census counts. So just remember, you spend 10 minutes doing your census, it'll bring about $1,500 back to our communities. And I want to do a special shout out to college students. I have a college freshman right now. She's very unhappy to be back at home with her parents. She'd much rather be partying with her friends at college. But one of the things that I have been bugging her to do is to complete her census, because even though she's back home with us, she normally lives in Chapel Hill, North Carolina as a college student. So she can go onto the census website, type in her college address, and fill out the census form. So she would not be counted with my census. She would be, now that she's an independent person, and normally she would be living in her dorm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina on April 1st, which is today. That's the census, that's the place where she would fill out the address for her census count. And just a little bit about, oh yeah, I wanted to mention too, Austin ISD is working really closely with the Complete Count Committee. Joey Crumley is our staff person who's dedicated to working with the city on this. And we have sent out all sorts of messaging to our principals and through our PTAs. We have also done, Dr. Cruz, our superintendent, has made a few different announcements at our board meetings as well to remind folks to do the census. And we're just working as hard as we can. We've also done some training for our family engagement office, and it's been really good. But I just want to say, you know, I'm so proud to be part of this community, the Asian American community, and be here with all these wonderful leaders. And, you know, I just want to reiterate, you know, we are Asian Americans, but we are really just as American as anyone else, just like you are. And we all count, you know, whether you're Hispanic, African American, Native American, white, it doesn't matter. We're really all in this together, and the better effort we all do and just spending a few minutes to turn in the census form, it's really going to make a big difference. And right now, after this pandemic, we're going to really need it in Texas. The oil industry, so many places where we typically get so much revenue to fund our schools and things like that, they're going to be hurting a lot, and that just makes it all the more important that that we get counted. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Arthi. So we will have a chance to hear from Feng Feng, our partnership specialist from the Census Bureau. So she'll be speaking to us about the importance of the census, especially around political representation and the distribution of power, and then any other updates from the Bureau in the wake of the pandemic.
Hey, thanks, Hannah. Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be here, and thanks for organizing this great platform to raise awareness of the census on the Census Day, and then to help the public to facilitate online, live, to fill up their census form. So I was thinking of going through the importance, but Sumit and Arti has thoroughly covered how important it is for the census to all our communities, and it matters, and it's going to impact our life for everyday life for the next 10 years. So I probably could save some time and focus on walking folks through the steps on how to easily fill up the census. But I have prepared a PowerPoint. I don't have this fancy virtual background like Artie has, and that was awesome. So I will just present my screen to go through the PowerPoint that I have. Let me know if you guys can see it. Okay, good. All right, so I'm based in Austin, and so we work for the Census Bureau, but work locally. As Sumit says, this year we have 2 local offices in Austin area, the Travis County and Williamson County. We have, okay, let me see this. So like I said, the importance of the census, the community leaders like Artie and Sumit already mentioned, it's about money and it's about power. Money-wise, there was a number, Artie said, $1,500, right? So that's like per person per year. That's how much money that federal government, the federal government's money trickled down to each person per year. Imagine that. If you're undercounted, your community is missing out that much money each census. That's $15,000 each census, each person that's get undercounted. So that's huge. And then that's the money that goes into the school, housing, library, road, you name it, and healthcare programs that we use every day. So the power, I mean, it's about redistricting, right? Redistricting, I mean, it's about the representative in the Congress, and the redistricting happens every 10 years along with the census. So every new census, and we will be adjusting the representative in the Congress according to the growth or decrease of the population. So after the 2010 census, Texas gained 4 seats. Purely because of the increase of the population. And this time around, there's a projection that we could gain 3 to 4 more seats because we're the fastest growing region in the entire country. And data alone and the knowledge that comes with the data that could inform the policies and the decisions business and governments and nonprofits organizations make is huge. So knowledge alone is another form of power. All right, Sumit walked very thoroughly about the basics of the census. So we do want to count everyone who lives in the US once, only once, and in the right place on this census day, right? Everyone, including citizens, green card holders, the international students, people on work visa, undocumented. As long as you spend the majority of your time living in the US, you should be counted in this census. And it's required by the US Constitution, and we have been conducting the census every 10 years since 1790. So how? Sumit also mentioned that there are 3 ways to self-respond the census. And for the first time in American history, we can finally respond census online. It's very important. It's a lot easier. So I'll walk through those methods, internet, phone, and paper questionnaire on how to self-respond. And if we wanted people to self-respond, so that we don't have to send the enumerators and census takers to people's house, especially during this COVID-19 time, that we wanted to avoid the personal contact as much as possible. All right, so these are the specific questions. And on the contrary to a lot of people's belief, it's actually very, very simple, very short questionnaire. You know, all the questions are listed on the screen. We're not gonna ask the citizenship question, your immigration status, your social security number, We're not going to ask the financial information, not asking for a donation. So be careful of the letters that you receive. There are some mailers that using the census word, but it's not necessary census questionnaire. So we'll walk you through a sample of questionnaire later as well. All right, so your data is safe with the census. That's our bread and butter. The federal law, Title 13, protects every information that you disclose to the Census Bureau, and we are never going to be shared with any other government agencies or law enforcement to be used against you. So we are in the final report. It's not going to be, disclosing the private information either. It's going to be in statistical modeling, and that's our promise, and it's protected by the federal law. Now, in terms of language, the mailing in the paper questionnaire would come mainly in English and Spanish, depends on which neighborhood that you're living. You might receive either language. But online, there are 12 additional languages that you can use. I'll walk you through that as well. And on top of that, we also have the language guides, flyers, materials, glossary cards to help you to understand what census is asking. That's in total 60 languages. All right, so let's walk through the timeline. When should we take it? Now we talked about it, it's a census day and April Fool's Day. If you don't fill up your census, you're a fool. That's why it's falling to the same day. But since starting on March 12th, most of the household in the US should have received your census invitation letter with the ID number that's unique to your household, that links to your household address. So you have from March the 12th to all the way August 14th to respond to the census. But we encourage you to self-respond online, by phone, or by paper questionnaire in April. Why? Because starting from May, if you haven't complete your census, Census Bureau might send the enumerators and census takers to knock at your door and collect the data or help you if you need, there's any any barriers that you had that prevent you from self-responding. So again, we wanted to avoid that. That's costly and it's not safe during this time, right? Now that we talk about the COVID-19, I just wanted to quickly brush up on some changes or updates that census operation has in light of the COVID-19. So we are carefully monitoring and following the guidance of the states and local authorities. And we have adjusted some deadlines. For example, it used to be the data collection time used to end on July 31st. Now we extended for 2 weeks to August 14th. And we also adjusted some deadlines for each operations to start. But overall, we still need to follow the deadline of December the 31st, 2020, that's required by the Constitution to submit the new census report to the president on the last day of the 2020. So the census is still on and it's still mandated to submit by the last day of the 2020. These dates might change or may not, because everything right now is changing so fast due to the COVID. Nobody can say certainly about anything, but we will keep everyone updated on this. And that's another reason you should follow our channel and then keep checking with us on the updates. So one thing that RT already mentioned is the college students. A lot of schools has closed, so the students might be living with their parents or somewhere else on the census day. There are two groups of students that they are counted differently. One is the students who live on campus in the dorm. If you fall into that category, you don't need to worry about anything. The Census Bureau will work with the admin of the housing admin of the university to count all the on-campus dorm living students together in the group quarter operation. If in the second scenario, you live off campus in off-campus housing, for example, a housing that you share with your roommates or condo or apartments. If that's the case, you will need to fill up your census by yourself with that address, even if you are not living there on the census day right now due to the COVID-19, due to the school closing. You still need to be counted yourself on the campus at school, because what we mentioned is, again, fundamental reason is we want to count how many people and where they are, right? So the resources, the power and money and knowledge can be distributed correctly in that community. So that's the ultimate reason. What else? More importantly and easier than ever. So like I said, this for the first time in American history, we can finally respond online, and we should take full advantage of that. Sumit already demonstrated how easy or vouched how easy it is. It took me less than 5 minutes for the 2 people in the household. So Hannah, how is our time? I can walk through the stuff as a tutorial.
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all, Fang Fang, for
Okay.
this amazing slideshow. If we are able to move quickly to the tutorial portion, it's a 7:01 right now. So I think if we can leave 5 minutes at the end, there was a question that came up I'm seeing here. So I want to save some time for that question. But so I think if we could go through the tutorial in the next 7-8 minutes, that would be terrific.
Sounds good. Okay. I'll show you from the step 1. You can still see my desktop, right? Step 1 of where to fill up online. So I always Google, and then actually you can go to 2020census.gov. 2020census.gov. We'll put this link in the description part of the video. And then here has all the information that you need on how to respond and why. So right here, how to respond, learn how. And you will be able to see how to respond. There are 3 ways, right? So let's walk through the online response together. If you click on that, you will be able to go to my2020census.gov. You can also directly go to my2020census.gov if you remember the link. And this is where you started your online questionnaire. If you notice, there are 12 additional language in addition to English. You can switch to those language, and then this give you more information in your own native language, right? So go back to English and start questionnaire. And this is where you should fill up your 12-digit census ID. The reason why we use this is it helps the census system to accurately associate your profile with the report, right? So we encourage you to use the 12-digit census ID. If by any chance that you either missed your letter, or you lost it, or you probably never received it, or so for any reason you don't have those 12-digit number, you can still respond online by clicking this link. If you do not have a census ID, click here. You can still respond online and with answering certain questions, so that the census system can associate you with the right right profile, right? So answer where your address is. You're in one of the US states or DC, and here's you fill up your address. right? If you have the ID, this will be confirmation of your address. And then it takes you step by step. It's very easy. It's not overwhelming at all. And you can take one step-by-step guided answer. So if without ID, you just fill up your address right here. If you don't have an address, like you're homeless or you are very rural, and then you would select, I do not have a street address. And then do you have a rural route address? So this is for the people who lives in very rural area. They probably don't have the postal office service. They don't, some of them, they don't even have the, what's it called? The PO box or something. So they have to describe where they are. And then there's that. So in that case, oh, this is a very latest news. If that's the case for you, usually we have census people to drop off the packets with a paper questionnaire for you. Because that operation is delayed due to the COVID-19, it's delayed for till the end of April. But in that sense, you can still wait. We would suggest you to wait to receive your paper questionnaire to respond, or you can still respond online with that ID number because that's more accurate. Otherwise, it might generate the confusion that census taker would have to follow up and visit you anyway. So in that very, very rare case of the rural address, and then you can still wait to get your ID number. So this basically is where you can see the address verification, the household questions, people questions, and final questions. It took me less than 5 minutes to finish mine for 2 people. Okay, so that is one place. So go back to, that is online, how to respond online, right? So go back to the 2020 census.gov. Let's seek for the second way to respond. Remember the how to respond, learn how. And then the second way is by phone. If you click on phone response guide, it will list all the numbers in different languages, right, that you can call. And then people, like we have workers who answer your call in that language to help you answer every question, guided question, step by step. And we've heard that's also pretty smooth. So what's another way? It's the paper response guide. So here you should see, so you can, it's a prepaid postal service, and then return address is usually showed. There's an enclosed envelope that you can just put in. And I have a language guide, I have a paper questionnaire sample right here. If you don't know anything, just search 2020 census, say questionnaire sample or something in the Google. And usually you should be able to see and then usually you wanted to go to the official website to find it, but I have it right here that you can see what the paper questionnaire would look like exactly. So still that 9 questions, your name, race, everything. And if you have your multiracial, then you can check multiracial. It's a self-identifiable. For example, if you are white, you can say I'm white from German or something, right? Your specific origin. And if you are Middle Eastern, you fall into white. So you would check white and the Lebanese or your origin. So this is the paper questionnaire that you will receive in your packet. And you can fill it up and then put it back and into the enclosed prepaid envelope to mail it back. So these are the 3 ways to self-respond. We strongly suggest you or encourage you to finish online. It's a lot easier, a lot faster. I wanted to quickly walk you through this language support as well. So the same thing, search in Google, language 2020 census. I think I'm going like too basic on this tutorial, but 2020 census language support or something, you can always find and try to find it from the official website, and you can always go find the language support or anything resource that you need. And in this, I'll use Chinese as an example. So we have about 60 language here, and large print and braille for disabled friends. And then right here in Chinese, if you go to that website, it shows you all the background information, why it is, what is a census. You can take the census online right here. If you need help, these are the numbers in Mandarin, in Cantonese, and then there is a video step-by-step tutorial on how to complete online in Mandarin and in Cantonese. There are more flyers to explain more. What is the census? Why is it different? What are money spent on? How safe is your data? And you might meet the census taker. What are they doing? How do you help us? You know, so each website underneath that language help is providing you much more background information in your native language. So it's a very, very great resource for us, especially Asian community. We are the most diverse minority. We have like 45 languages in Austin area alone, the Asian language, different language and different culture. And speaking of that, Asians are great at everything, a lot of things, not everything, a lot of things, but civic engagement, we're not that proactive, let's say, and active. So according to a census study, Asians are the least familiar with the census, and the most afraid that their information will be shared, and least likely to say that census matter to them. So they are actually the group that would least likely to participate in Census 2020. We should change that, and we can change that. This is the opportunity for us to do that. So I think that's the 3 ways to respond, where you can get help in the language. I want to show you in the last thing is how well we have been doing. We have self-responding the census so far, because it started on March the 12th. So right now it's April the 1st on Census Day. How well are we doing in the nation and in your community? So this is where you can go to census self-response rate. Again, you can Google 2020 census self-response rate, and it'll take you to this website. So as you can see, as if today, April the 1st, what's going on? Let me close some tabs so that this is not destroying.
So while you're closing, Fang Fang,
yes,
it's 7:12, and I do believe we should save a little time at the very end before we close for
sure.
Answering some questions. So while you're loading that, let me know whenever you need the last fish, and then I'm happy to move to questions.
Okay, I will very quickly it's loaded. I'll very quickly to tell you how to read this. So as you can see, the self-response rate in the national level, 38.4, right? And then you can go to here to select each date. So let's select the latest date of yesterday. This map, the data is almost real time. It's updated every day from 3 to 4 Eastern, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. And you can select it from the internet. So far, we only have internet, and then later on, we have probably paper. And then you can go to your state. In our case, it's Texas. And then you can go even further. See, Texas rate, self-response rate is a little bit lower than the national level. And then you can even go to your county. My computer is slow. Maybe I think the Zoom is eating a lot of it. Right, okay, you can see that, right? You can go to the county by selecting or moving your mouse over to hover, and you'll see, for example, the Travis County. And this is the Travis County number compared to Texas self-response rate. It's slightly higher. And then you can even go to census tract. I wish I could demonstrate. You should play with this map on your own, and then see if you hover your mouse, go to different shapes, and then the color, you'll see that particular census tract, that neighborhood, how well it is they are doing so far in self-responding the census. This neighborhood is doing pretty well, and the darker the color, the lower the self-respond is, right? So if you're interested, not only you should finish your census, you should help your community to raise awareness, help them to finish the census. And this is where you can see how well our community has been doing. I'll close this tab so that it doesn't eat up all my thing. Okay, I think that's all for me. And we
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. It is now 7:15. I am watching the time here, but I do want to list the 3 questions that came up from our viewers. And I believe that a lot of them have actually been addressed by in your presentation. So the first question is, how do I answer the census if I'm multiracial? Second question, how can students coordinate with each other if now that they have all split and moved away from campus? These are students who are in off-campus housing, like you said earlier. On-campus dormitory residing students will be counted through the administration. So these are for students, college students who are living off campus, perhaps with roommates. Third question is, will everyone receive the paper questionnaire? So if we can try to quickly address these questions, Fang Fang, if you don't mind, in the next 1 or 2 minutes, and then I do believe we have to close, and then we'll also encourage people to reach out to us with any further questions that they have.
Yes, and then we should list our Austin Asian CCC's Facebook page and website and our contact information. So to quickly respond to those 3 questions, the first one is racial, right? How do you self-identify? So that's what I mentioned. If you're biracial or multiracial, you select whichever that fits your description or your identity, and then you can specify your origin through that. The second question was the off-campus housing students. How do they collaborate, especially when they have housemates and roommates? Ideally, you want to collaborate, together, right? If not face-to-face call, right, and understand each other and maybe do it together. That's ideal because the ID can be only used once. But if you can't do that, just go to the without ID link that I demonstrated at the beginning of the online completing the census. Don't use ID. You should fill it up as if you never have ID, so that you can you and your home roommates can go separately and then complete the profile, and the system would use your address and understand that you guys are living together. So these are the scenarios you can do right now. The importance is you should use the address on campus or at the school area, not at your parents' place, and not with your parents' census form either. What's the last question again?
Yeah, so the last question is, will everyone be receiving the paper questionnaire?
95% of the household will. Some of them are hand delivered, like I said, the rural ones, the ones that census doesn't have confidence to rely on the postal office. And some of the group quarters, what are the group quarter people? For example, the nursing house, prison, hospital, the college dorms, RV parks, hotels, all these are group quarters. And they are gonna be, where Census Bureau is gonna work with that group quarter administration to count them in the special group quarter operation. So they might not receive the paper questionnaire directly responding directly. And the homeless people, they might not receive it. So we work with the shelters, organizations, the soup kitchens, and all those service providers, and count them one by one, that they will not receive the questionnaire either, but they can still choose to reply online. They can go to a library, or they can go to somewhere. A lot of our partners are organizing events to help them, to provide the device or help for them to self-respond. They could also do that. But because of COVID, right now, a lot of those events are not happening offline. So far, I hope that's a very long answer to your question, to the last question, but that's the scenarios. And the point is, even if you don't receive the letter, you don't have that ID, you can always go online to complete the census without ID.
Great. Thank you all so very much. I wish we could all clap for all of our panelists. So I guess I'm clapping alone. But thank you all to our viewers out there for joining us in this live webinar. We will be having a live stream like this one every 2 weeks. So please invite your community members, your friends, family. Maybe you could have a watch party to join us. And we'll also be having multilingual tutorials and webinars available as well. You can visit our website at aacc-atx.org. That's again, aacc-atx.org. We have essential information about the census and more language resources. And if you have any questions, ideas, feedback, please reach out to us. You can reach us at aacc.atx@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you,
Take the
everybody.
census.
Thank you. Fill out the forms.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.